I went to see David the Good, who listened to Portishead and drank spiced rum. He threw me off the ramp and broke my foot, broke my wheelchair, all in good fun. Hey guys, how you doing? I told my wife, I was like, I am beat. I don't think I'm gonna do this thing. I haven't prepared a proper live stream. She says, just throw out one of those ask gardening questions things again. Yeah, you can ask anything. It doesn't mean I'm gonna answer truthfully. Actually, I missed April Fool's. For years I did the April Fool's thing on my blog, and then last year April Fool's fell right on Easter Sunday, and I was like, I can't do April Fool's on Easter. So I skipped it, and then this year I was so busy, and my mom is in town, and I just couldn't do it. I was like, I don't have any time. I cannot dedicate the bandwidth to making a really good joke, because I made really good jokes. So the first question here, I'm going to answer this one here. Shmee146 says, fire ants tried to murder my toddler son. What's the best way to kill all of them on 5 acres? The best way to do it, the best thing that I have found for killing fire ants is to use that ortho ant bait. What is it? Amdro. That's what it's called. Amdro fire ant bait. That stuff, you sprinkle it around kind of the edges of their hills, and they take it in, and then they die over the next day or two. I have done lighting them on fire, but it's not all that consistent, and you also run a few risks there. I had a friend, and when we would go camping, we would get these sandy campsites in Central Florida. And we go camping, and the first thing he would do is identify where the fire ant nests were, and pour a little gasoline down into the center of it, and wait a little bit until the gas had spread through, and the vapors had spread through, and then he would flip a match on it, and poof, you would have like all those little holes shooting flames out here and there. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Well, borax may work, but I played around with like trying to do natural methods and stuff, and I'm going to repel them with cinnamon and cayenne, and fire ants are nasty. So Amdro it was, because I didn't want the kids getting bit. And the other thing you can do to kill them is 7 dust. You just go and like sprinkle a little 7 dust over the hills. I know, it's not organic, but he asked me, what's the best way to kill them? What's the best way to kill them? You'll kill them all. Kill them all. I hate those things, man. Ugh. So, anyhow, yeah, if they try to murder your son, no holds barred, use nukes. Okay, Laura says, okay, what's the origin story of your theme song? Just a second. I am going to find my friend here who wrote this song. Okay, here we go. This is, this guy is awesome. All right, let me see if I can find it. I will find it for you. Oh, let's see. View image. Sorry, it's taking me a minute here. This is a great story, so this is worth waiting for. This guy is one of my best friends from forever. All right, this is the guy that wrote and sang my theme song. This is Kevin Chandler. Kevin Chandler has been featured on TED Talks. Kevin runs a nonprofit called WeCarryKevin.com. And Kevin is one of the most amazing people that I have ever met. Now, when I was a little kid, we went to the same church. His family went to the same church as us. And he had an older brother and then an older sister. Now, the older sister had an aggressive form of muscular dystrophy. And the chances of having another kid with muscular dystrophy after that were really, really, really low. Like they thought it was impossible. But they had another son, and that was Kevin. And from the time Kevin was little, he had it worse than his sister. Kevin's in his 30s now, and I am convinced the only reason he's still alive is because so many people have prayed for him over the years. He's a good guy, he's a Christian guy, and he's solid, and he's helping other people that are in wheelchairs as well get mobile. But anyhow, he visited me at my house once, and he wrote this jokey song, because we built this horrible ramp to try and get him up into my house, because he would come and visit me almost every year. And the ramp didn't work very well, and we kind of, like, his wheelchair was like 500 pounds, and we kind of like dropped him, and I guess he broke his foot a little bit. And we drank rum, and we listened to Portishead. So he basically took like bits and pieces of stuff we had done, and it sounds like this bizarre. David the Good is kind of a psychopath, and it was really funny. So he sent me this song. Here's the good song, and that's it. So that's the story. Kevin Chandler, wecarrykevin.com. I told him I'm going to have him on my channel at some point because he's brilliant. And the nonprofit that he did, he actually helped. He and some guys designed a backpack. He weighs like 60 pounds. He can't do anything for himself. He can't walk. His arms barely work. And they designed a backpack so he and other people like him with severe muscular dystrophy can be carried around and go hiking and that sort of thing. So he's been carried all over Europe by friends that have volunteered to carry him on their backs. So that's wecarrykevin.com. So, all right, let me get back here. I'm going to keep answering questions. I also, did you go click on a link below and watch Austin's Compost Your Enemies video? I laughed out loud at it. Okay, go over there and send him some love because it's really funny. Yeah, go back to this. All right, let's see what we have. Ask me anything. That's the origin story of my theme song. Kevin wrote it and sent it to me, and it was so good I decided to use it for my theme song. Leaf says, how do I prune my black raspberry vine? The variety is Brandywine. I'm not sure. Generally, you remove the canes that have fruited that year. So if any of them had fruit on them, you cut those off, and you let the next set of canes you don't cut. So if it bore fruit, you cut it off, and then you let the next canes grow up. But that's just what I know from cane fruits. I have not ever been in a place where I could really keep black raspberries, unfortunately. Jason says, tell us the story of you and Rachel meeting. That's a good story. I was 10 and she was 8, and my mom was one of the early adopters of homeschooling because I flunked kindergarten, and she said, there's no reason with how smart he is that he should be flunking kindergarten. I'm going to pull him out, teach him how to read, get him back on track, and then I'll put him back in normal school. And I did so well when I got out of the normal school system, and I was so far ahead that she never put me back in. So I ended up going all the way through and graduating from homeschool. But Rachel's mom was looking to homeschool Rachel and her younger brother. And so somebody said, oh, you got to talk to Jenny. Jenny has multiple kids. Now, my mom actually had 7 children. I'm the oldest of 7. But at that point, 2 or 3 of us were being homeschooled, I'd say. And so we got introduced, and we both started grooving. She said, I dig you, babe, but I've got to keep moving. And so we hung out for like a year, and then her mom and my mom drifted apart. We didn't see each other again for quite a while until she ended up not doing the homeschool thing. She did it for 1 year. She loved it, and then her mom got a divorce and put her back into regular school, which Rachel just absolutely hated. And then a friend of hers that she had met in, I think it was Young Life, it was a church group thing, and said, oh, you know David, you used to know David and his brother Brian, and you and your brother used to hang out with them. You guys should meet them now. We're all friends. And so this girl that was friends of mine and friends of hers at the same time decided to reintroduce us all. So we got together for a meal. And I was 20 at that point, and Rachel was 18. And my brother Brian, my younger brother, when we got the phone call to go meet, my brother had just shaved my head. down. I like buzzed it down to like a 1/4 inch. And I had been reading this book on crop circles, and I had told my brother to get the little buzzer razor out and then just cut crop circle designs all over my head. So like shaved down bald crop circle designs over the top of my head. And so I was sitting there, and he had just buzzed it down to a 1/4 inch. And then the phone rang, and this girl said, "Hey, you want to meet Rachel and her brother Miles again? And you know, you guys, we can all hang out." And I was like, I said to Brian, I said, "She's like 18 now. I haven't seen her in a while. You know what? Hold off on the crop circles. If it's not a good meeting, we'll do the crop circles." So I didn't get the crop circles, and I never did. I met her, and we fell in love right away, and we got married 4 years later. So let's see. Oh, Caroline says, "Hi, I was actually looking for you at 6. I keep missing you because it's dinner making time." Actually, I was out working. Let me show you what I was working on. I was working on this. This is a little garden shed. I had a scrap piece of 4 foot by 5 foot, which is kind of a dumb size, plywood, and I decided to make a little garden shed as an experiment on the new land. So this was what I was doing today. This is as far as I got. We had torrential rains today off and on, so I got this much done. It's got pieces like rocks under it for posts, which I dug into the ground and I stomped on, so hopefully it's good enough. It's a 4 foot by 5 foot garden tool shed. Tomorrow I'll put the sides on it and the door, and then I can lock it and I can keep my tools over there when I'm not there. So that's what I was doing, and that's why I went later tonight. Wholesome Root says, "I don't know if you know who I am. Rose Duncan on Facebook friends." Oh, hi, Rose. No, I don't. I'm never on Facebook. My social media girl who quit like a month after I hired her set me up on Facebook again, but I'm not ever on there. Constantina says, "Hello, any tips on growing prickly pear from seed?" I have grown some cacti from seeds. They're slow, and they don't like to, they tend to rot if you plant them too deeply. I haven't done prickly pear, but the other cacti I did, I sprinkled them on a light cactus mix, and I watered them like every 3 or 4 days or so, and I basically barely buried them, and I got a bunch of cactus. So Plantico says, "How to grow melee apple or other..." That would be wax apple. There's quite a few of them: rose apple, wax apple, melee apple, all that stuff. They don't seem to be particularly demanding trees. They start and they grow really easily. There's actually a rum joint that is built around a melee apple, not too far from where I live. And they actually cast a floor with a hole in it, and just the tree is growing through it. And the bottom of it's probably barely getting any water because there's all of this foundation there. It's getting water runoff from the side, and it's still loaded with fruit. So I would just plant them and care for them. Don't let them freeze. And remember that little plants, if you're in a cold area, are very subject to freezes. Bigger ones can usually come through it. Wholesome Root says, "Come and get it. It's organic spinosad and it kills the mounds." Okay, that's good. That's another option. I would prefer an organic option, but he just said kill them all, so. David says, "What trees should you get grafted varieties and which are okay to grow from seed? I live in Central Florida." Okay, I have found that every peach tree I ever grew from seed did very well. Like every one of them had delicious fruit. So peaches I know are awesome from seed. Loquats tend to be good from seed, but sometimes they're so-so. If you can get loquats from good varieties, like you know that the parent is an improved variety, you're probably going to have better fruit because it's genetics. Apples can be variable from seed, but that's one of the cool things about them. If you want them to fruit, if you want just about any fruit tree to fruit faster, you graft it, but then you lose the variability of seed growing. Most of the citrus come true from seed, or pretty close to true. I've had seedling lemons, seedling oranges, seedling grapefruit. They were all very good. And the nice thing about doing it from seed is you can name it after yourself. The downside is they take a long time. With mulberries, I wouldn't bother from seed because they have a juvenile period that can last 10 years before they fruit, whereas a cutting, boom, fruits the next year. So I'm going to cover a lot of that stuff in the book that I've been working on that I really need to finish, The Good Guide to Propagation. I've done a lot of research into how long it takes different things to go from seed. my favorite color? Turquoise. I like that, like, ocean turquoise color. Wholesome Root says, someone is sending me loquat seed. Best advice for starting. Yes, don't let them dry out. Loquat seeds will lose viability if they sit and dry for a super long period of time. Plant them in somewhat moist soil. Just keep them watered now and again. They come up in about a month. They start sprouting, and they grow quite quickly once they get started. And they transplant well, too. They're very easy to transplant, and they're tough. But usually take about a month, sometimes 2 months to sprout. So when you get it, just stick it in about that deep and keep it watered and wait. Constantina says, the gas sounds evil but kind of fun. Yeah, it's totally fun. I mean, it is evil, but it's fun. I mean, anytime you get to light up gas on fire, it's fun. Unless you're like in the middle of it, and then it's not so fun. Jason D says, I signed up at unauthorized.tv. I like your video. Thank you very much. I've put a bunch more videos up there, including Compost Everything the Movie. I put up some demonstrations that I haven't aired anywhere else. Some composting stuff. Some long presentations that I did for summits and events and for clients and other things. So there's a bunch of video that on there that is not on YouTube at this point. So if you're interested in supporting my video work, I decided to go with a YouTube alternative rather than having everything in one basket. So there's a link below, unauthorized.tv, $5 a month, and I've got, like, if you wanted to send me Patreon or something, just go do this instead, even if you don't watch the videos, because I'm not into the whole Patreon e-begging thing. You can get legitimate value. You'll save tons of money on your gardening stuff. You know me, I'm a cheapskate. What about Bacillus thuringiensis for ants? Any thoughts? No, I think BT works well, but I don't know how well it works on ants. I know that it works well on caterpillars. Never tried it. Jenny says, thank you for the info on the scuffle hoe. Got one. It's a game changer. Oh yeah, man. If you've got sandy soil, scuffle hoe is the bomb. Just back and forth, back and forth. Wholesome Root says 7 is a carcinogen. Well, hopefully you give the ants cancer. Leaf says, I might need to prune my royal apricot. When is the best time to do it? A guy has bare roots, and I just stuck it in the ground because I was excited to have an apricot. I usually prune them before they leave dormancy in the winter, like just a little bit before they leave dormancy, and then all the new growth comes on the low part, and you can select out which branches you want. If it's too late for that, wait until after it fruits. But if it's a bare root, you can probably just prune it at almost any time. It's new. Ooh, good question here. What's worse, fire ants or the ants that make noise where you're at? There are these ants here that they're called tuk-tuk, which is a weird name. I can't find out. They call them tuk-tuk, but I have no idea where that comes from. The tuk-tuk. Oh, I lost it. You guys might have to send super chats if you want your questions answered, because we got a bazillion. Brian says, what's worse, fire ants or the ants that make noise where you're at? The ants that make noise sting like the dickens. They're definitely worse to get stung by. They're like half an inch long, and they click. They make this nasty clicking sound, and they live in all kinds of, like, they live in dry leaf matter. So you're scraping stuff up, you're raking your yard to throw things in the compost pile, they'll sting you on the hand, and it feels like you just got burned with a hot iron. Nasty. But the sting goes away in a little bit. The fire ants are more destructive overall because they kill a lot of stuff. Carolyn says, I signed up for unauthorized TV today while I was making strawberry jam. That's awesome. Thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate it. John Anderson says, have you any advice on growing pawpaws? Depends on if you're talking about pawpaws carica papaya, the papaya tree, or pawpaws Asamina triloba. It's very different. So let me know, and I'll tell you. Jason D says, apple trees. Does a rootstock make much of a difference in the apple production or the type of apple grafted to it? I'm wondering if I need different rootstock for different locations. Yeah, sometimes the rootstock can be a dwarfing rootstock that'll make a variety smaller. The rootstock can be resistant to certain diseases. It can be more cold hardy. There's different reasons you do rootstock, but a lot of the times the rootstock is simply seed grown. You can just seed grow apples and then graft your finished variety on top of the seedling. It doesn't matter that much for for backyard orchard culture. I mean, if you're doing a commercial orchard, you might want something for your specific soil, you know, nematode resistance or something like that. Like with peaches, nematodes are a big deal. With apples, I don't know what they're trying to breed for rootstocks, because I've never been in a good apple growing zone. But I did do quite a bit of reading, and a lot of times traditionally they just start seeds, and then they plant the seedlings out wherever they want, graft on top of it. Fletcher Thomas says, can you talk about Landraces? Yeah, I was never a particularly good runner. I'm not a great swimmer either, so I avoid the sea. I could swim all right, but I wouldn't be in a race. No, I know what you're talking about. No, the Landraces, like Seminole Pumpkin is a landrace. Basically, you haven't bred it down to a point where it's lost all of its variability, but you have a general type, and you have different types showing up inside that type. No, I like landrace varieties. I like if you could find something that's been growing in your area under your conditions and with some decent genetic variability, you can often adjust it well by selecting the best ones out and keeping them for your area. Cordian Farm says, I have a 2.5 acre food forest in Lakeland, Florida. I'm transitioning the property into an income generator. Good work. I'm establishing a nursery and planning to sell produce. Best-selling plants/trees/produce. Produce I didn't even bother with after a while because the management and the handling and that was, it's too perishable. But the best-selling, from what I've heard, is like lettuce greens, organic greens, and I'm going to just make my shed disappear. Tomorrow I should finish it. And herbs, like herbs in those little clamshell cases, which wastes a ton of plastic. That's what I was told. Just a second. All right. Nancy Rogeri says, what is the meaning of life? Well, it's basically that what is the chief end of man? Man's chief end is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. What rule hath God given to direct us how we may glorify and enjoy him? The word of God, which is contained in the scriptures of the Old and New Testaments, is the only rule to direct us how we may glorify and enjoy him. So, there you go. Chief end of man is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. Constantina says, does Kevin's singing voice always sound like in your theme song? Tough guy. Yeah, he has a much lower lung capacity than average, so he has kind of a breathy singing voice. Are you saying, are pawpaws self-pollinating? No. You need a couple. Yeah, definitely not grafted off the same plant. Steve says, hey, loved your stream yesterday. I've got 2 Illinois everbearing mulberries and a seedling loquat in Burnaby, BC, Canada, Zone 8B. Oh, good work. That's awesome. 8B, yeah, you're in good shape there. You should do well. Our gentleman said, if I could find a woman who could hang with the tempo, I might have 9 kids by now instead of just 3. You're getting there. Paul Conrad said, another homeschool success story. We are currently homeschooling our 3 kids, oldest in 4th grade. Good work, Paul. Homeschool or die. Crop circles. A. Griff said, how many trees could I feasibly get into a 20-foot by 30-foot space without completely sacrificing production? You're probably looking at about 6. It's not a lot. That's not a lot of space. If you're going at the 10-foot, yeah, that's pretty close. You want to, I mean, you can go down, you can make them smaller to get more varieties in, but your production definitely goes down. You could probably fit 20 trees into that space, but but you'd have to keep them like shrubs and really work at it. So, hello from Florida. Hello, Deanna. Karen said, my bananas are starting to fill out nicely. Do I cut off the bloom or leave it on? Just wondering if leaving it on will take away from the bananas developing. You know, people are always telling me to cut the blooms off. I haven't noticed any difference in production or ripening whether I cut the bloom off or leave it on. So I just generally ignore it now and leave it on. You just have to make sure that, though, that the bloom is there until after it's made all the female bananas. There's a first set of female bananas, and then you start to get the little ones that come out from the inside of the descending bloom. You get the little male blooms that are making pollen. So you just kind of ignore, once you get past the female blooms, you have no more bananas on there, and it's just descending slowly and dropping little pieces. At that point, you can knock the bottom of it off if you want to. It doesn't matter. But I would make sure that you leave a bit of stem, because you don't want it to start rotting at the bottom and spread up into the bananas. Constantina said, haha, I bet if you promised crop circles, you could raise some super chat money. Just kidding. Yes, probably. Chris 99999999999 says, besides adding clay, any general suggestions on fixing soil that's mostly sand? Yeah, add organic matter, and you might also add biochar for long-term production. And I would probably mostly just stick to fertigation, foliar feeding with diluted, like compost tea, urine, Epsom salts, fish emulsion, that sort of thing. The sand itself, just view it as a good thing to hold the plant's roots in, and just because you can throw in tons of compost and it'll just keep disappearing in sand. So if you water with foliar feeds, you can just get away with that, and then you don't have to spend a bunch of time making compost. I would always add some to the beds when I started them, but I wouldn't try to just super improve it long term. Though you can sheet mulch, and that'll work nicely. A prison for tools, that's right. Deanna says, I live in East Central Florida. Is it too late to plant watermelons? Yeah, I would say so. You probably should have done them a month ago. But it's not too late to plant beans, okra, cassava, yams. There's a lot of stuff you can do. You could try watermelons, but I would probably plant, if I was going to plant watermelons now, I would plant the small ones, not the big ones. Shorter, quicker watermelons, so you can get them growing fast before it gets too hot. Yeah, the best way to contact me directly is email, david@floridafoodforests.com. Carolyn Smith says, you actually still have a Facebook page under The Survival Gardener. I know, I don't even know how to delete it. I would, but I can't. Steve says, is selling fruit trees on Craigslist viable? I don't know. I haven't tried that. Paul Conrad says, how do you own property in South America? You just have to make a sacrifice to Quetzalcoatl. They'll let you right in. Hi David, what's your final thoughts on using urine for a fertilizer? I think urine is a great fertilizer. We eat a lot of food every day that passes right through that we can't necessarily use. Urine is high in nitrogen, it's sterile when it comes from your body. If you're on a bunch of drugs, get off the drugs, then use your urine. I dilute it 6 parts to 10 parts, except with things like bananas, or just occasionally you can just dump it next to a tree. As long as you're not putting a bunch in the same spot over and over again, you won't kill things. Works very well. Madeline Santiago says, hey David. Hey Madeline. Joanna says, do you have any suggestions on storing food grown in a humid Florida climate? Don't think root cellar is possible, and no basements here, as you know. Yeah, the best way to store it, like with root crops, I often just left them in the ground for a long time. Like I would dig cassava through the winter and dig yams through the winter, and sometimes I would even dig sweet potatoes off and on through the winter instead of pulling them all up. But drying is my favorite method for Florida. If you can, usually you have to put sugar in if your boiling water can. I don't want to put a bunch of sugar in stuff. I really like drying stuff. I would get extra mason jars. I had a cheap dehydrator, like a Nesco dehydrator. It was like $40 with the multiple trays in it. I would dry a bunch of fruit. I would dry some produce and dry herbs and that sort of thing, and then pack them into mason jars, clean mason jars, and just shut them up really good, and then store them in the pantry. Other guy said, root maggots, maybe. My radish, turnip, onions never got a chance. Help, I want to grow them. I would try planting something else in between. I'm not sure. I never dealt with root maggots. I don't have enough information. Derek Clausen says, I sell stuff off Craigslist. Should be all good, but you should have a license. Yes, that is true. You don't want the SWAT team busting in the middle of the night because you sold a pear tree. Land of the free. Arjanima, how do I decide which enemies to compost first? I would compost the most annoying ones first. Like, here, let me show you. This is funny. I don't know if you guys saw this one. Okay, this was on my demonstration how to make fruit trees grow fast. Hans B says, 4:30, plant a tree and soak it, LOL. All you did was putting a cutting in the ground, not a tree. So in the video I've got this little stick in the ground. I said, let's say this is your tree. You're going to put this right in the ground, and then around it you're going to make a little basin. Now, I didn't have a fruit tree to plant, so I used the stick as a demonstration. I mean, it's so obvious. All you did was putting a cutting in the ground, not a tree. And I said, do you not understand a simple demonstration? Hans replies, David the Good, so why don't you demonstrate the truth? So, of course, I responded nicely, and I said, you are too dumb for this channel. Go watch someone else. The coach puts up a whiteboard and starts drawing on it. Coach, here's where we're going to run. I want defense back here. Player, all you're doing is writing on a flat surface. Why don't you show us by running on the field? Coach, I am showing you how to manage on the field. Player, it's all a lie. You're a liar. Anyhow, compost those people first. Too dumb for this channel. Any advice on growing Garcinia? I don't even know what Garcinia is. I have to look this up. Oh, no, I have never grown this. Garcinia, the Malabar tamarind. I'm looking it up right now. Wow, it's Clusiaceae. No, I have never grown this one. It's a weight loss. That's probably why I've never grown it. Okay, that is weird. Huh. Okay. I'm looking at women in their underwear with supplements. Garcinia Cambogia. No, I have never grown this, but I guess it makes you wrap measuring tapes around your naked waist. No, I'm sorry. I wish I knew more, but I don't, so. Ken Bone says, thanks to you, I can't stop planting trees from seed. Well, that's great. That's the best way to do it, I think. Kinjo51 says, D Good going live again. Hello from North Florida. Hello, Kinjo51. Steve Rogers said, yeah, I wonder how much it costs to start up an online-only nursery. Probably not much. The difficulty with the online nursery is shipping around the United States because there are different rules for different states, which is why I quit selling online, because I was probably always in violation of something. Amy Ball says, tobacco is so hard to start for me, LOL. No, it's not easy, but it likes light to germinate. You hear the rain outside? It's pouring again. Maybe you guys can hear that. Tropical rain. So you have to sprinkle on the surface, mist them, like make sure the soil is slightly moist, and then just cover the whole tray with some plastic wrap. Or you get one of those clamshell cake trays, you know, like they have at the grocery store. So you just have to keep it moist, and in a couple weeks they'll start coming up, and then start thinning them out as they get a little bigger, transplant them out. Harold Hum says, anyone familiar with digging up an anthill and plopping it on another anthill in order to promote their moving elsewhere? Supposedly they war with each other and eventually search out another area. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've got gasoline. I mean, it might be fun. Nancy says, I found out why PayPal would not allow me to buy. Oh, you said you were going to subscribe to unauthorized. Someone was using my debit card. Thank God they would not allow the charge. Well, see that? Like, signing up for unauthorized saved you from wicked people online. That's great. Denise, hey, how are you? Denny's asked how to eat arrowroot. I just boiled it in stew and then chewed out the strings, which is not really the most civilized way to do it. You can cook it and mash it and strain the strings out and keep the starch. It's a very excellent digestible starch. But I just chopped them up and put them in stew. Have you ever grown Rollinia? No, I haven't, unfortunately. Back. Karen says, thanks for the banana bloom info, David. Sends a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Karen. I appreciate it. I'm trying to cover everybody here, but there's a lot of questions. Misguided Mind Bullet says, I inherited a banana tree at my house. I know, every time I'm like, banana tree, people are like, you know it's not a tree. No, I didn't know it wasn't a tree. I had no idea. So crazy, thank you for that. 15 amazing things you won't believe are trees. You won't realize that number 12 will blow your mind. I inherited a banana tree at my house. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Soil is crumbly red clay. I cut it to about 12 inches at the first chill. It's got about 7 shoots, about 4 feet each. I want to use it for fruit. Well, don't cut it at all. You want to get it to grow as fast as possible to fruit, and you're going to have to cover it through the winter because that is very... Atlanta's way too cold. I did a live stream on growing bananas outside of their range. So if you go back like a couple of weeks ago and look at that live stream on bananas, I got a ton of info on it. Finka says, Dave, I got some baby papaya growing. Any advice? I'm in zone 9B, Southern California. Yeah, feed them well, keep them well watered, grow them up big as possible, as fast as possible, because you're going to get frosts that take the fruit off. And right before the first frost, pick the fruit that look like they're going to be the most ripe and try to protect the tree if you can. But you can also use the green papaya. If they're starting to get a little bit yellow, they'll often ripen on the counter. Sometimes the green ones will too, but they don't taste very great. Sometimes they're kind of bland or they don't work well. But there are a lot of recipes for green papaya. You can use them as a vegetable. So just grow as fast as possible. The faster they grow and the better fed and cared for they are, the more likely you are to get fruit before there's a freeze. And you might be lucky and get a mild winter. They'll live right through. South Texas Gardening said, hey David, I just grafted some fig and citrus trees of mine 3 weeks ago. When do I remove the aluminum foil I wrapped around the graft? I see some bud popping through the parafilm, but no leafing yet. It's probably healing up now. When they start leafing out and growing, I would probably just pull it off. But you may not even have to leave the aluminum foil on it. You can unwrap it a little bit, see if it's growing together. If that scar is healing up and making a nice ridge around it, it's probably fine. Brian says, Pete Canaris, jackfruit trees growing under oak canopy in zone 9A, they survive 24 degrees for 4 hours. Yeah, the oak canopy makes a big difference. Joanna says, David, I planted a banana plant from Mosswood Farm Store, so I had to put a cage over it to keep chickens from eating it, but now they get on the cage and poop there. Is that going to hurt it? Probably not. It may burn the leaves a little bit, but bananas will digest a lot. I would just rinse the leaves now and again. Raven says, hey David, my ginger is sprouting. Once it is sprouted, can I take it off the heating pad or will it get mad and rot? Probably won't get mad and rot unless it's overwatered. They do not like to be swamped wet, and they don't tolerate it well if the soil is cold and it's wet because they can't outgrow it. The Bumblebee Foundation Project said, SWAT teams for selling a tree, ha ha ha, what? No, it's true. Somebody got swatted for selling an orchid they didn't know was on an international list. They were set up by one of the government agencies. They swatted him, took his computers, took his family at gunpoint. Yeah, it's crazy. It's insane. Jennifer says, in Florida, how long from flower to fruit for a passion vine? I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. I didn't have much luck. I was a little too far north and it would freeze on me. Brian Rosado said, any tips on growing mangosteen in Zone 9B, Florida? Yeah, boy, that is a huge tree. That is way out of its range. I would try to keep it small and plant it against a south-facing wall, but even then, that's going to be very hard. I just saw a beautiful mangosteen tree locally, and I asked the nurseryman who had planted it. It was an old English guy, actually. I said, how long did it take that to bear? And he said, oh, 23 years. 23 years. Woo! Tyson said, I am traveling home right now in Florida with some Pakistan mulberry branches freshly cut. Any advice on how to get the best chance at rooting them? Yeah, the best chance is to graft them because they don't root well at all. The Pakistan mulberries are really hard to root. Sometimes they just won't take. I never had any luck keeping them alive as cuttings. But your best chance at rooting them from cuttings would be to stick them in some moist potting soil with some rooting hormone, put a little baggie over the top to make a little cover, or if you have anybody with a nursery that has a mist house that you could borrow, that would be even better. But if you make a little tint over them, like a little greenhouse so they don't dry out, that'll work. Lindsay says, all right, gotta get up here. I'm trying to get everybody here, but so if you want me to answer for sure, you can always super chat me, send me random money. Shed money. Okay, I found it again. Lindsay says, I have planted hundreds of seeds lately, only to have the slugs eat them when they sprout. Any advice? The slugs are almost as big as a Pomeranian. That's nice, Lindsay. Yes. There's a couple of things you could do. At dusk, when the slugs first start coming out, you can go out and chase them down and take a pair of scissors with you and cut them into pieces, which is disgusting but somewhat satisfying. Or you can take a little bit of salt and just drop them into it, and they turn into a foaming, dying, thrashing mess. The other thing you can do, when I had slugs, I would get a can of beer and put some little bowls around the garden, and they're like natural alcoholics. They will come to the beer in the night, and they will drown themselves in it, and you can just get rid of like slugs all night that way. Another thing you can do is put some boards down in the garden, like wet the bottom of the boards and put them here and there. The slugs will hide under them during the day. You can flip the board over, kill all the slugs underneath it, and then do it again as a trap. Deanna says, boiling water works great on fire ants, but it will also kill your plants. Yeah, I've done that before. Jason says, I'm going to start the David the Good fan club. Who's with me? All right, that'd be funny. I could like have decoder rings, and we've already got the t-shirt, compost your enemies. We could have like a pledge. That would be fun. Our gentleman says, are you for or against Nicotania as an insect isolator quarantiner? I have no response to that. I don't know. Amy K says, how do I deal with moths laying eggs on my cucumbers? I have added a lot of beneficial insect plants and adding tansy and nasturtium this year. Oh, they are a pain in the neck. I had many less problems with the various caterpillars when I had more wasp nests around the garden. Like all those wasp nests that I hung a bunch of mailboxes around the garden so the wasps would build in them. Wasps eat a lot of caterpillars. That helped a lot. The other thing is really just staying on top of it, going out there every day and looking at all of it and picking it. Usually there's a season when they're really laying heavily, and then there's not so much of them. Nancy says, tell us more about the property. Did electrical go in? Yes, we have electric now, and I've started building. Christopher said, David, I've got fire ants in the outer edges of my 4x4x4 compost pile. What should I do? I would just ignore them. They're going to turn the pile for you and make compost. Unless they're really bothering you, then you could put it down whatever that organic alternative was, or Amdro. But I generally just ignored them in the compost pile. They come in and eat stuff, and I figured they were leaving their little droppings in there and turning it up. And later, they're probably going to move out of there once the food's gone. Finka says, put eggshells around plants to confuse moths. They are territorial and they think the eggshells are another moth and go somewhere else. That's interesting. I did not know that. That's a new one for me. David says, must have spring plants. Suggestions for Northeast Florida. Yes. Are you ready? Must have Seminole pumpkin, Everglades tomato, yard-long bean, aka asparagus bean, chaya, which is Mexican tree spinach, yucca, which is cassava, Manahat escalenta if you want to sound smart, and that's most of it right there. It's too late for cabbages, it's too late for most of your greens, but the chaya, sweet potatoes. You can still put sweet potatoes in now. They're great because you can eat the greens and you can eat the roots. Dub Smash 2016 says, what was the price of your new property? Answer questions like that? I would need... that was a lot of super chats. Way too many. Carolyn says, I planted a bunch of the Dioscorea alata. Then I peeled and cubed and boiled it and mashed it with butter and milk and salt and pepper. Smelled like white potato and tasted a bit like potatoes. Okay. I like them. I think they make a nice mashed potato. Land of the free. That's right. Mrs. Mika says, I have an answer for you. Yes, let me see. I just lost it. Trying to get through here. Mrs. Mika says, anyone know where I can find a sugar palm, Hamira palm seeds? Yes. The Broward County Rare Fruit and Vegetable Council. They have a tree growing there with seeds. You can get in contact with them. Broward County Rare Fruit and Vegetable Council. Any books on edibles that grow in shade? No, I don't know of any books on that. There is some shade gardening info on my site, thesurvivalgardener.com. Brian says, I bet Pete Canaris can get mangosteen to fruit under his oak canopy. I don't know if you probably didn't type it that way. Pete Canaris, man, he's got a Yeti cooler. No, I like Pete Canaris. He's got a Yeti. Yeah, mangosteens are not really well suited to Florida, so. Carolyn says, my friend Brian is growing Pakistan mulberries from cuttings. He has a greenhouse set up in his living room. That's probably the best way to do it. Greenhouse them. I had a lot of them. They just died on me. But there may be, there are a lot of species and there are a lot of varieties of mulberries. So maybe a different variety because they just died for me and rotted. And I started a lot of them. Other ones fine. Brian said, have you seen any breadfruit trees growing in South Florida where you grew up? No, I never saw any growing up. I have seen one since. The Rare Fruit and Vegetable Council has one. It doesn't look very great, though. David Hardesty says, have you met Green Dean? Yeah, I've talked to Green Dean quite a few times. I actually went on one of his plant walks. We were both speakers at the same event once. We run into each other now and again. Green Dean's done great work. Controversial Chris says, does anyone know how to get rid of cats? I've replanted my entire garden 3 times now. I don't think I'm going to say anything on that. Steve says, have you ever grown kola nut? I actually have not, but I have a fellow getting me a kola nut tree soon. He was going to hunt it down for me. So, Arch Enemy says, I send you random compliments. You look very handsome tonight. Carolyn says, I am in Gainesville and have a Glen mango. It's in a big pot. I kept it in my greenhouse in the winter and it did fine. Yeah, that's the way to do it. And mangoes are very, very able to be kept small with pruning. Constantina says, cardboard flat on the ground works okay as a slug trap here, similar to the boards, but we don't get them Pomeranian size. That's nice. Freaking Dave Hartman says, do you host woofers? No, I have not. I'm basically I'm a bit of a I'm a bit of a nomad. I've moved around quite a bit, and I also have kids to raise. So like having a lot of random people through the house is just sort of, you know, I already have my children to do all the hard work. My kids helped me frame today. Brian says, I bet Pete Canaris doesn't have fire ants. I hope you're embarrassed when you're compared to Pete Canaris. He doesn't have fire ants. He grew a mango from a seed. It grew 20 feet tall in a season, and he's got fruit on his channel. I'm sure Pete Canaris could grow a mangosteen. I'm sure Pete Canaris is nice and he's never mean, like you, David the Bad. I wish you had the giftings of Pete Canaris. Pete Canaris, Green Drinks, Florida. You left us far behind, but Pete Canaris was kind, and he stuck around to teach us how to garden. I don't mean to be mean, but compared to Pete Canaris, you're an awful man. Frank says, I've been trying out the Seminole pumpkins in Virginia, and they survived the powdery mildew. Oh, I lost it again. Paul sends a $1.99 super chat. Love what you're doing, David. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, there are no restrictions on yams where I am. The Bumblebee Foundation Project asks, are you allowed to have Dioscorea cayennensis or Dioscorea alata where you are? Yeah, there's no restrictions. Bulbifera, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. It's food, so they don't care. Jennifer says, the new growth on my Jamaican sorrel looks weird, sort of shriveled up and stunted. Is that a symptom of nematodes? No, it sounds like aminopyralid. It sounds like some bad manure or some herbicide in straw or something. That's not good. You can send me a picture, though. And I'll try to figure it out for you. David at floridafoodforests.com. Madeline says, David, would you ever do a convention or some sort of event in mid-Florida? Yeah, probably. I just did one in Gainesville, which did quite well. We had over 100 people show up. We had a wonderful host, beautiful woman. Let's see what we got here. Cats hate fencing, you cat hater. Brian says, are you going to make soda from the cola nut tree? Yes, something caffeinated. Maybe I'll get some coca as well, and we'll make Coca-Cola. Anita E says, what about avocados? Can you keep them small as well? Yes, you can. You can keep them pruned smaller. They're not as easy to control as mangoes, I don't think, but they respond very well to pruning. You can keep them small. Bricks work well to keep cats out of the garden. I have 8 cats. Bricks? Throwing them? Oh, man. No, I'm not on Discord. My son's on Discord. At some point I think I signed up, but I never did anything with it. Cats keep moles out of the garden, but they also give you toxoplasmosis and make you turn bats, you know? Cats are dangerous. They look cute on the internet, but... Nancy says, okay, this one guy going to send you the video grew this huge yam. Pete Canaris grows yam 10 times the size of yours. Pete Canaris' name opens every door, unlike yours. David the Good, they should call you David Bad because you don't have half the goodness that Pete Canaris has. Amy K says, I read native wisteria is a nitrogen fixer and saw some growing down the road. How do you tell the difference between native wisteria and the more aggressive, invasive Chinese kind? That's a good question. I haven't tried to tell them apart. There is information on the University of Florida website, though. So, like, right, University of Florida or UF, native wisteria, Chinese wisteria. I remember reading an article on it at one point, but it hasn't stuck with my head. Anita says, would you ever come to the Virgin Islands to do an event? Yeah, absolutely. You could hop on over there. That would be awesome. I'd love to see the Virgin Islands. Steve says, worth to plant golden kiwi seeds out given the space? Yeah, why not? Do it. I bet it's not raining at Pete Canaris' place. Oh, yeah. Aaron said, ever make root beer beverage with the root beer plant? Know where one might start to? Yeah, I made tea out of it, and it was delicious. So I would probably extract it. I mean, I don't know if you'd want to like stick it in vodka and extract it that way. That might be a little. That would not be the kind of root beer you might want. But I would look up a traditional root beer recipe with sassafras and just substitute it and see how it works. Carolyn said, if you want to do any events in Central Florida, I can hook you up with several people who would love you to come do it at their homesteads. I appreciate it. I don't think I'm going anywhere for a long time now. Because, I mean, you're going to have a baby in 8 months, and I'm trying to build a house and some other things. And I need to write some books, but I appreciate it. Maybe in a year or two. 2 years, maybe. Matthew says, would you grow citrus from seed over grafts? Yes, for the smaller citrus, like key limes, calamondins, kumquats, no problem. I would do that. But for the larger citrus, I would grow it that way and let them grow. But if I wanted citrus quickly, I would just graft because it takes so stinking long. I mean, like 8 to 10 years for a grapefruit, whereas a calamondin will fruit in about 3 years, and some of the limes and lemons are pretty fast too. Tanya says, did you grow comfrey when you were in Ocala? I'm in Orlando and just ordered some. Yeah, I grew the Bocking 14 variety in Ocala. They did terribly. I had to keep them watered all the time. They were not happy at all in the heat, and they eventually all died. However, somebody came to the Gainesville event and brought some. They said we're doing great. And my guess is it's a wilder form. There are varieties more suited to the area, but you'll have to ask around to see if we can find some. Madeline says, David, do you know where I can buy a mauby tree? You know what I would do? I would get the Latin name for mauby tree. That makes a good tea, by the way. If you guys don't know mauby, that's an islander thing. It's a very bitter bark, and you can cook it down and make a tea out of it, and you add a lot of sugar to it, so it's really sweet and bitter at the same time. It's very good. So, I would call down to Homestead and start calling around the nurseries down there and ask them, do you know where I can get this? Do you know where I can get this? And somebody's going to connect you. You'll find one. Dan Organic Food Force says, any special care needed for fig trees in Central Florida? Not much. They seem to like a lot of compost. They do really well from compost. They also do really well if you plant them when they're small. The bigger ones in the pots don't do nearly as well as when you start a little tiny one and plant it right in the ground. John Anderson says, do you have a tune about the straw bale gardening Nazi? Joel Karsten. Look up Joel Karsten on my website. That guy, man, he's got a problem. I wrote an article about potential dangers in straw bale gardening, and he just went like insane, and he shows up and threatens to sue me every once in a while. Karsten. Joel Karsten. Maybe it should be more like Rammstein. This is mine in Karsten Garden. This is mine in Balen Garden. will shooing all your pants off if you run your little mouse off. Karsten. Yeah, Joel Karsten. His biggest achievement apparently is that he built a gigantic fireplace in his house. Matthew says, is there a specific reason you left the U.S. or overall troubles? Yeah, the U.S. is going to collapse probably within 15 years into a complete and utter mess, so I wanted to get out before it did. And it's also much freer elsewhere. I like my civilizations pre-collapsed. Elizabeth Ball says, hi David, first time, long time. Because of your book and your videos, I just used my first batch of compost. Yes, had a crazy wet winter in South California. Congratulations! That's great, your first batch of compost. Everybody give Elizabeth a hand. Good job. Fantastic. That is so cool. It's like magic, isn't it? It's so much fun. Must be fungus in the straw. Ergo of rye. Tanya says, I just read your book and have a garbage can full of weeds from this week. I'm scared to start the stinky bucket because we have a raccoon who often comes by. Any advice? Yeah, hang a little something over the top of it so he falls in and drowns, and you can compost the raccoon too. Too much? Too much too soon, I'm sure. If you do the stinky bucket thing, just cover it so he can't get into it. I never had anything coming to that. I think it smelled too bad even for the pests. Hi, Lori. All right, guys, you got any more questions? We have hit an hour here. See if I had anything else to show you. Oh, yeah. Did you guys watch the video below? Austin's Compost Your Enemies video. It's funny. You just have to watch it. Go watch it. There's a link below. The other thing is, okay, here's my shed. Let me show you. Here's our land. And right, you see towards the top, the front of it right there, there's a little clearing. There's two big groups of bananas to the left side. See the white van? It's my van right there, jammed up along the side of the road. And there's a ditch on the other side, so I have to park right there. So you see a big bunch of bananas, and then a little further you see another group of banana trees. That's what those two clusters are towards the middle. And then there's a little white spot on the ground with this fire pit. I am building my little garden shed right next to the second clump of bananas back from the road. So it's a little 4-foot by 5-foot shed, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's the scrap size I had. So this is my experiment. I want to make all my mistakes on a shed before I start a house. I have no idea what I'm doing. But that shed, I'm going to do something so clever. You guys will not believe how clever this is. Look at this. All right, let's see. Where's my garden shed? Let's put the garden shed right where it belongs. Look at look at that. I can make it so tiny. We'll put the garden shed. It's right there. So tiny. Oh, that is so cute. Look at, see that? Look at, there's a shed right there. Perfect. So that's where the shed went. And then, oh, look at it. You can barely see it. It's so little. Aw. So tiny. Let's make it a little bigger. Okay, so like right in the middle here, this is where I'm going to build our houses. Right in the middle there. Down at the bottom here, it's all nice and flat. Yeah, I know it looks like an outhouse. But you haven't seen me build the outhouse yet. I am going to build an outhouse, but this is not it. Anyhow, there we go. That's what I'm doing. Dillstar Stewart says, give us a shout out, bro, please. Dillstar Stewart. Shout out. Dillstar Stewart, I will sing your name. Finka says, my place is way nicer than Pete Canaris. I don't think so. I bet you Pete has built 3 outhouses by now. Yeah, that's my property. Brian says, is that your property? Yes. Deanna says, how big is too big for transplanting mulberries? Yeah, I transplanted one that was like 6 to 8 foot tall and it did fine. but I'd probably cut it back when I transplanted it. Anita E says, always had a yard, now I have an apartment. Best compost system? Probably a worm bin, or you find somebody who has gardens and you just save all your compost in 5-gallon buckets and give it to them. Nancy asks, David, what makes the country you're in different? Obviously, they're not communist, or we'd not be there. So what makes it there better? We are okay here now, but oh, Congress is ridiculous. The difference is that there's a lot of rules on the book, but they don't send SWAT teams to your house if you don't do them. The government doesn't really care that much what you're doing. They don't really pay that much attention. They don't really want to leave and go do things. They're happy to stay in their offices, and they don't really come by and follow you around all the time to see what you're doing. You just we go in and you wave and you say hi and you fill out your papers every once in a while, but it's not nearly so intrusive. The gears of the government machine are not so huge that they run you over. Basically, if you're out in the country, nobody cares. So. Finka says, David, it looks like heaven, man. Nice place. Yeah, it's a nice place. Anita E, have you looked into earth bag building? Yeah, 1 second. You know, every time somebody says, hey, did you think about doing this? Did you think about doing that thing? I learn. And I read. The heck? Where is this thing? There we go. Right here. Look at that. See, there's the earth bag building book. The tools, tricks, and techniques. So yes, I read the book. I read part of the book, and I said, no way, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to dig that much. I'm actually not that bad at building with wood, whereas I just looked at it, I said, that's so much shoveling. And the clay and the rocks are so hard, and I'd have to get a bunch of fill. I might experiment with doing a small earth bag building because it looks like it would be fun to make one. But I don't want to build for 11 people. Earth bag, too much. The Enlightened Farmer, Mr. Darnell. Nice to see you here, man. Says he just planted. Oh, I just lost it. I just planted like 12 Suriname cherries. Good work, man. That's awesome. Jason D says, grand solar minimum. Discuss. Yes, ice age is coming. I don't buy the global warming thing. I think we're headed for an ice age. And I think CO2 is plant fertilizer, so sue me. I like CO2. Your place is way warmer than Pete Canaris. Yeah, that may be true, but I'm not Pete Canaris. Pete Canaris is Pete Canaris. My gosh. Pete Canaris. I haven't shared what country I'm in yet, Tanya. No, we don't have to compost, Karsten. It's too much fun just to see the crazy stuff you post now and again. Jillstar says, bro, you have awesome skill. I watch your videos all the time. Respect. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Without people watching my videos, I wouldn't be doing it. I mean, a few years ago, I only had a few thousand subscribers. Before that, I had a few hundred. I didn't take it seriously. I didn't get a lot of comments. People weren't like, hey, Dave, what are you doing here and there? I would write gardening articles. And more people followed me and said, do videos, come on, do videos, talk to us, show us what's going on. And so I got into it, and so if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing it. So that encouragement means a lot. I really appreciate it. Matthew says, will your outhouse have a faucet to use the waste or a drain field? Neither. I am going to build a composting toilet system that I have designed on paper and would love to test. So we'll see. You'll see how it works. It's going to be awesome. Finka says, do you need a live-in ranch hand? I'll go live with you and work for free. Not yet. CJ sends a $2 super chat. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. B. Haven said, a bit wet there, I would think, for earth bag. Yeah, I think so too. That was another thing when I was reading it. I was like, oh man, it rains so hard here. I think it would be just a toxic, moldy interior. I don't know though. I'd like to try it and see maybe, but... The Enlightened Farmer, Mr. Darnell, said, the stork should be dropping off my twin girls anytime. Congratulations. That's great. Karen said, I saw a show where people used earth bags to build a home. They were miserable during the entire process. My back doesn't like shoveling dirt, so yeah. John says, as usual, what a good time. Got to go put my 3-year-old to bed. God bless. God bless you too. Derek said, wish I could escape the States with you. It took me 10 years. I've been convinced that the U.S. was going to collapse since the early 2000s, and I've been trying to get out for a long time. Looked at a bunch of different countries and eventually just went to where nothing really matters. Nancy says, it also takes a long time to build with earth bags. Yes, absolutely. It's just too long. I mean, I framed up that little shed in an hour or two, and I could build, a 12 by 24 or something in a few days with the materials laying around. Whereas, man, earth bags, forget it. B. Haven said, Marjorie mentioned you were writing stories about a Detective Broccoli. Where do you find these stories? Oh, you don't know about Jack Broccoli. This is Turned Earth, a Jack Broccoli novel, the world's first gardening thriller. Gardening is just a hobby for most, but for some it's a matter of life and death. Who keeps killing soil scientists and agricultural industry executives around the world? If you dare to ask, you may end up as the next corpse to disappear into the earth. When gardener Jack Broccoli and his boss are targeted by a radical farming cult, Jack's entire life is turned upside down as he's forced into a terrifying world of international agro-industrial intrigue. It's really funny. Some of you guys have read it. You can say if it's funny or not, but it's funny, and it's illustrated. Like, seriously, I got this great pen and ink guy to illustrate it, and let me see here. I gotta find his pen and ink illustrations are just unbelievable. Like this one here. This is Jack after he's eaten some possibly poisoned food, trying to throw up into a dumpster. That's our hero right there. And his friend Pak Choi is saying, "Throw up, Jack! Throw up!" So yeah, it's fun. This book is a lot of fun. You can find it on Amazon. It's got some great reviews, and it's entertaining. And I actually have been a ghostwriter and a pen name novelist for some time, so it's not like I just showed up and started writing novels. Anita said, again, earth bags because our winds were 270 miles an hour. Wow, crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Bruce says, I'm in 5B. I'm going to be living in a tundra soon. Possibly. Let's see. Yes, the book is for real. It's the world's first gardening thriller. Look, you don't watch me because I'm any other gardener, do you? I mean, what other garden writer shows up and writes a gardening thriller? I mean, this is a real legit novel. From a publisher. I didn't even self-publish this. Compost your enemies before they compost you. Yes. It is seriously for real. And the next one is a quarter of the way written. I gotta finish it. Jason D said, should I empty my compost toilet at the base of my fruit trees? I have dug into the ground and planted and buried it next to fruit trees, no problem. Generally, though, I compost it all first. You compost for a while. So, compost it for a year. Amy K says, by the way, watch the Homegrown Food Summit. Marjorie Wildcraft talks very, very highly of you in the videos. I think she may be crushing back on you. Yeah, I always had this thing for Marjorie Wildcraft. Hi, I'm Marjorie Wildcraft, and today we're going to visit some... It's just so amazing what this guy has done. He just has so much energy. And let's just go on over there and see what he's doing. He's doing some beautiful stuff. And you built this worm bin from an old porta-john. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I made it from the top of it actually was
part of a truck, but the bottom is definitely a porta-john. Well, that's amazing. So that's very green of you. And at the Grow Network, we love to see people doing green things. So yeah, I love Marjorie. She's great. Like, I'm just watching her like, oh. She's a little older than me, but we're kindred spirits. So. Konstantina says, in Soviet Russia, enemies compost you. That's nice. Konstantina, when are you going to record a song and send it to me so I could run it in my videos? I want you to sing a David the Good song and record it and send it to me. Yes. Finka says, my mulberry is barely coming out of dormancy. Weird? No, I'm like that in the morning. Just give me some coffee. Pour some coffee on it and see if it helps. Raven says, awesome impersonation. Yeah, I used to get in trouble. I did regular impersonations of people, and I could sometimes nail somebody spot on. There are some voices I simply can't do, but I used to pretend that I was various young men calling for my younger sisters, and I would just like leave messages on the phone for my mom to find. Hello, this is Leroy from Broward Community College. I'm calling for Linda because you said that your mom wasn't gonna be home this weekend, and so I was just calling because you said that like when we were studying together, like maybe we could study like when your mom is in there, and I just want to say like you're really hot, and okay, bye. So I would leave messages like that, and I would like put my hand a little over the side, and they wouldn't know it was me. And so like my mom would be getting on my sisters, like she's interrogating, who is this Leroy? Why did this Leroy call? This is somebody you know, and you said he could come over when we're not home, and you're studying with him, and he thinks you're hot, and you know, like, and he's got our number. He obviously doesn't know we're listening to the phone. Are your parents listening to the phone? He should know that, you know. And one of my sisters like, it's got to be Dave. And my mom's like, that is not Dave's voice. I would have to listen to Bob Hope again. I mean, there's this lady down the street. She rents this place down the street. Most people here are really chill, but this woman is from, she's a German retiree, and she just decided to she wanted to go live next to the beach. But she always yells at my children, no matter what they do. And so I was joking with the kids about going down there like Jimmy Stewart. Listen here, Mrs. Chris, you have no idea what you're doing to these children. You're just in the middle of all this stuff, like a scurvy little spider, spinning your webs, pulling the children down. You don't deserve this neighborhood, and this neighborhood certainly doesn't deserve what you're doing to it. You know, and the kids thought that was funny. Behaven said, I think you're lucky your sisters haven't composted you. You know, when I did the South Florida Food Forest event, one of my sisters was like, David, you're selling tickets to Mom's backyard? Like, have you no shame? And I was like, just, I have to pay for my trip somehow. And I actually, what I ended up doing was buying my mom's ticket so she could come visit the grandkids with the extra money they made, but it was funny, so. So she kind of gave away. She was like, oh, all right, you know. But actually, after she saw how many people came, I don't know what she thought I was doing, but when everybody came and she saw how many of you guys showed up and were sharing plants and laughing and joking, and we had such a wonderful time. We were all sharing different types of fruit and stuff, and she was like, I never knew. Like, they know me as their brother. They don't know me as like the YouTube gardener guy. They know me as the brother. So she was just like, these people were wonderful people. What a wonderful group of people. I see why you wanted to have people over. Like, she hasn't interacted with you guys and seen the comments and gotten the nice emails and all that stuff. I was like, these are great people. Yes, our theme may be compost your enemies, but we're not enemies. So, Finka said, I threw a dead rabbit in my compost pile. It was smelly for a while, but it fully composted in like 3 weeks. My neighbors really like me. Finka, that is awesome. That is just incredible. Good work. See, most people wouldn't do that. Finca knows what to do. Think about it. So. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about composting the government. That would be a bad idea. Alright, so anyhow, guys, I think I'm going to call this a night. We're almost up to an hour and a half here. I thought I was tired. I'm going to get up tomorrow and get up early and start working. I think I can finish that little shed tomorrow. I just really need a place to lock up some tools and things. So. I don't know which my neighbors like best. The stinky tea or the rabbit poop soup. The rabbit poop soup. Alright guys, I keep meaning to edit more videos for you, but I have been putting a lot up on unauthorized.tv, including stuff you guys haven't seen before, demonstrations. I've got the whole South Florida food forest tour and talk down there, which you'll find interesting. And soon I will be putting the Gainesville talk up there as well. I just had a few more video clips I had to get from somebody. And it's unauthorized.tv. You can sign up below, $5 a month for a subscription, or you can watch some things for free up there. I am posting a lot of my old YouTube catalog up there for free, and then I've got some new stuff for subscribers. So instead of Patreon, that's what I'm doing. And instead of giving more money to the Google YouTube thing, even though YouTube has been decent to me, I think it's good to have redundancy and have systems outside of the mainstream. Because you just never know when ad things are going to change or whatever. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, so I'm not. So unauthorized.tv, there is a link below. And also, be sure to go watch Austin's video link below, his Compost Your Enemies. That's funny. So, hey guys, don't worry, Carolyn, I haven't even edited it yet. It's coming. Anyhow, guys, have a great rest of the night. Thanks for watching. God bless you all, and until next time, may your thumbs always